Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chupacabra's Lair. I'm your host, Larry, the most delectable indie Chupacabra man, and we're back here today to check out an indie puzzle game, a momentum puzzle game, called Orblox C, which just came out a few weeks ago. It's created by Game Balance and Wins_84, with Wins_84 being the co-developer and also the publisher for this title. And it's available for $3, and this is a very robust game which requires you to push a little space block and use its momentum to hit solid objects to stop it, or to hit other different tools and obstacles that you interact with to accomplish various different puzzles. And it's simple, but it's one of those games that's just simple enough that it messes with you on a very subtle level. So, here is basically the core gameplay. You just nudge your little block with the arrow keys or the WASD keys in one of the 4 cardinal directions until it either hits an obstacle, interacts with some sort of other activatable, or it careens off into the void of space, in which case you just do a good old-fashioned round of dying. And that is more or less the core of the gameplay. Now, where it sort of differs from some of the other games that I've seen in this genre is that it very quickly goes from just a basic momentum game where you gotta figure out in what combination of jumps you need to go in order to not explode, and it goes from that into the realms of just challenging, murdery puzzle very quickly, because it adds things that you would normally expect from like Valve and Portal, where it adds portals, bumpers that keep your momentum going, and explosives, all manner of things that can keep you busy. Whereas a lot of games like this tend to just throw a couple of different obstacles at you later in the game, but just get really massive, really elaborate levels instead. This game tries to keep its levels pretty in check. They won't get a lot bigger than this, at least to start out with, so that you're just worried about the strategy as opposed to just pecking around the field trying to figure out what the heck you gotta do. Now, unfortunately, not all of these different tools are there to save you. Some of them are there to slowly torment you and to get you to go absolutely crazy. And depending on the level, you will end up having to run through it several different times. Like this one right here will probably take me a moment or two in order to get it just right. So we'll just zip around here. And what is... oh, that just kills me. And if you do have a lot of problems with this game, and you do see that you're dying a lot, the good news is that the game indicates the pathway that you've just taken using a combination of blue chain links for your current run, and then gray chain links to show what just killed you. And that's a really handy thing to have in the event that you find yourself getting stuck a lot, and these levels get elaborate enough that you're gonna have to try multiple different combinations, and depending on how many, it can be really hard to remember exactly what combination you just did. I'm not a jewel thief. I don't really remember endless combinations of safe codes, so you gotta take what you can get sometimes. Now, what I do know is that I've already been through this a couple of times, so I have a pretty okay understanding of where I was before, and basically all I gotta do is sneak down here, and these lovely southern bumpers, not the northern bumpers, are the ones that will take me to sweet, delicious, blocky freedom. Now, if you find yourself not quite challenged enough by either those bumpers or these little teleportation portals, the game also allows you to try and beat each one of these missions with the minimal amount of time required, or as few movements as possible, so that you can get the ultimate high score. Now, I don't think that this game is really multiplayer, or at least not leaderboard multiplayer, where it's not really multiplayer, but it has a leaderboard built into the game. And that's fine. I mean, but it still lets you try to accomplish the game in the most optimal way possible so that you can get the different achievements that are attached into this game. So if I open up the achievements panel, it looks like there's a fair number of them. Like you've got Star Advanced, Star Beginner, Outboard Beginner, and then look, you got a whole boatload of these. Although mostly it looks like you just gotta survive a certain number of missions, activate a certain number of a certain object. There's not a crazy load of them, but again, this game has a fair number of missions to it. Like if you look here, in the first planet segment alone of just easy, there's probably something like 25 missions. And then there's, what, 8 different little unlockables here, including one that will be unlocked after the game has been purchased and downloaded over 3,000 times, which it looks like they haven't reached that just yet. But I'm hopeful. I've actually rather enjoyed this game so far. So let's see what we got here. We've got to reach this. Oh, this is gnarly. Okay. We've got to reach this little block here, but in order to do that, we've got to get through both portals and bumpers, which might not agree with me, because if I'm not... Oh, there it goes. I actually wasn't sure how this was going to go. Because if I went through the wrong bumper, it was just going to jettison me out into space, like yesterday's garbage in Star Wars. Okay, so here we have to, instead of reaching just a finish line in that little red square, now we have to gather up all of these little star bits, or we won't be able to progress and teleport to the next leg of this game. And this can be a little bit maddening, because this doesn't follow the standard logic that you have to follow for the rest of the game. Because all you have to do is get all of these, so that once you hit the last star piece, it will teleport you to the next level in the game. So you don't necessarily have to worry about saving yourself, because if you were about to careen off into space, it'll keep you alive because it's about to teleport you to safety. So here's a good example. Before I can get these ones up here, I have to get all the ones on the periphery. Otherwise, if I try to go back and get them, I will careen off into the void of space. Which I understand is very bad for one's pores, because you just kind of freeze almost instantaneously, or pretty quickly, because there's like no heat in space. It's like cold and there's a void. All the heat energy gets sucked out of your body, and I understand that's not good for the complexion. So here we have another level. And we have to be very careful because, again, we can end up careening off into the ether. But the good news is there's actually plenty of little blockies here to help us not do that. Now, unfortunately, I started with the internal orbs first, the internal star bits. So if I try to go up and get the top and bottom ones, I will careen off into space. So it's not entirely unusual in this game, I've found, for you to need to go back and forth and try a few of these levels more than once so that you don't explode. Because they do require you to learn new logic on the fly, so there's a lot of these levels you won't get the first time, and you shouldn't be too worried about that. I mean, it goes to say with any puzzle game, you're gonna mess it up a few times, and you shouldn't be afraid of that sweet, juicy failure. Now this is a new one. The way that this works is these are like little trap blocks that only activate once you've passed through them. So you have to pass through them and then treat them as if they are a regular block. In fact, you can treat them like they're a regular block even after, or before, I should say, you've actually passed through them. So now that I've passed through them, I can jump back and use them as like a stepping stone. If I need to, but you don't always have to in this game. The important thing to note is that they're not there to steal you away or to trap you. They're just there to activate and make things change in this game over time. So time is now also a factor, timing, and trying to figure out what you have to do in a certain order, which is not necessarily a bad thing, although it can be a little bit of a trolly thing, depending on who you are and how good you are with this type of a puzzle. Now this is an example of how you sometimes have to use these blocks before you're actually able to interact with them. So I'm actually hanging out on the edge of one of these little closing blocks, trying to get it to do the thing and not murder me. Now, unfortunately, I'm not 100% sure if I can remember what I was supposed to do in this one. I know you gotta go over here and through, and then you come back over here, and maybe go up? I don't know, I'm not feeling that one. What if we just go over, through, and what happens if I go down first? No, that doesn't really help me all that much. This just goes to show you that none of these are so easy that you can always just remember them. It's kind of utilitarian that way. So where do I need to go next? Going up here murders me. Going over here murders me. But what if I go over here and then back down? Does that open up any options for me? Not supreme. Oh wait, am I just derping this? I might just be derping this. Give Larry a moment. He needs to work the wibble wobbles out of his brain. Oh wait, here we go. All I had to do was come back down after I got over here, as opposed to spinning up and around. Got it. So once I'm up here, I can chuck down there. Oh, there we go. See, some of these require a lot of moves. They're not all really flowing and free wibbly wobbly. Sometimes you just gotta suss it out quietly for yourself so that you don't explode. Now here's another one of those blocks that's temporary. Rather than having a gate that you can partially interact with before it closes, these are almost like little inflatable rafts in space, which only deploy after you've passed through them and activate them. So these only take up 1 block's worth of space at all times, but they're only useful after they've been deployed. So let's just see here. I'm gonna have to travel through all of these blocks. Oops. Not quite what I had intended. Alright, there we are. Now we've got all these star bits, and away we go. Yeah, some of these also require you to backtrack in ways that you might not have anticipated before. And this is going to be another example, like I was trying to talk about before, where you're not going to be able to be afraid of potentially whiffing off into the void, because before you do that, you'll get the last objective piece and you'll just be teleported to the next part of your adventure. And now we have to deal with these insidious little exploding blocks. So the way that these work is if I press to the right now and tap it, it starts to count down. So that's only a temporary obstacle, and you have to time it just right, or else you won't be able to land on the block or bypass the block at just the right time, and you'll go whiffing off into space. So this is an interesting little mechanic, and you can also make it so that they don't explode instantaneously, or they do explode instantaneously. I'm sorry. I was getting those confused in my head as I was thinking about what the next level was. But I can certainly... Oh, this is going to be annoying. I can certainly say that you don't always have to blow stuff up in this game, but that is always an option. Believe you me. But am I just supposed to zip into these over and over again? Maybe. Oh, there we go. So not everything will flow, and not everything has to be blown up, but it certainly is fun. And this is actually as far as I was playing on my own before. So how do I need to do... Oh, this is getting all jacked up now. Okay. There we go, beautiful. I'm actually not too bad at these games. I kind of like this one too. Like this one I might actually play through on my own time after I'm done making this preview video and see how far it will actually go. So what do I... Oh, I need to destroy all of these. That's just evil. Alright, well. That's not... Oh, wait, there's still one that... Oh. You trolly little number 9. How do I... Oh, wait, I see. So I go like this. Perfect. You just got to engage those first 2 on the sides instantaneously before going round the world. But yeah, like, I feel like this game has got all the stuff you'd really want in a momentum puzzle game. It's got a continuous flow of new mechanics that you have to worry about between portals and bombs and closing gates and deployable inflatable blocks. There's always something new in this game to keep you busy, and there's always new configurations and combinations of all those different things that'll keep you challenged and a little bit teased as you go through literally, you know, over 100 levels, it looks like to me from what I've seen. So that'll be it for this one. Check this game out for yourselves. I have a link in the video description. It's $3. I think that's well worth it. And I'll catch you guys and gals next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and toodaloo, fruitaloos.